Oh, okay.
It's okay. I mean, it's good. I want to hear what they have to say.
Yep.
It is 7 o'clock. We do have a quorum. We'll call the council meeting to order. First items on the agenda tonight is our invocation by Councilman Guerrero, and then the pledge to both the American and Texas flags by Mayor Pro Tem Tierney.
Will you bow with me, please? Dear Lord, we come before you tonight to ask for your blessings, Lord, and your blessings on wisdom, and help us to have that wisdom to make the right decisions. Lord, give us the strength to make the right decisions, to do what is right for the benefit of our citizens, the state, and this country. Lord, we also ask that you bless and watch out for all the employees of the city of Louisville and the citizens, and especially those, Lord, that are out there fighting and just putting their lives on the line for liberty and freedom and the way of life that we can have here in the United States. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor
the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Somebody swap chairs with you?
I know.
I noticed one day this week all the chairs are gone.
Okay. We've got a few presentations we want to make tonight to some outstanding people who have done some wonderful things for this community with their lives and their devotion to the citizens here in our community. So we'd like to take this opportunity to give them some special recognition. If we would, I'd like to ask Frank Pillsbury to come forward first. And Frank is with an organization. Frank, good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
Frank's with an organization called Tournament of Heroes. I don't know if many of y'all have seen the stuff about it, but I want to tell you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to give Frank the opportunity to tell you a lot more about it. For, I think, 3 years now.
Yes,
This is the third year we just had it. Frank brought together a organization called Tournament of Heroes, which was designed basically to honor and show allegiance and respect to some of our military service people who have suffered hard times because of their service. And with that effort, he got together, Frank is associated with the Dallas Boat Show, and he got together with professional fishermen and came in and says, you know, what we'd like to do is take them up to Lake Louisville and provide them with a day of fishing, and then it progressed through there. And so now, this past year, they brought them up for the weekend. The city of Frisco, I can't say how much we appreciate their efforts, because the city of Frisco donated like 100 rooms for them, and I think we brought up like 45 fishermen in town and 45 of our military service people. And they spent the night on Friday night. They took them out, had dinner and stuff, and they took them to a Rough Riders ball game on Friday evening, and they had a wonderful time. They put them up in the hotels over there in Frisco. And then Saturday, we took them out to Lake Louisville, where we had a big send-off. We had a rear admiral there that swore in 50 new citizens to our military service that day out there on board a ship. We had a Navy flyover that had just I don't know what size plane it was, but it was a monster. It was a big one. And they came over, did a big wing flop back and forth at us, and it was very special. We had our local police and fire drum and pipe corps band that came out and played for them, which everybody was just thrilled with that and just amazed how wonderful they were. And then we also had several other things I'll let Frank tell you about. But then they took them out fishing all day. Of course, while they were out fishing, their family and spouses were actually over at Hawaiian Falls at the water park, and they were able to do that, and these people took out fishing. And then they brought them in, and they took them on a parade from out Lake Lewisville up all the way down to Market Hall in downtown Dallas. They closed down I-35. It was such an amazing feat to be sitting there. My wife and I were sitting there on the freeway waiting for them with little banners and stuff. And it was so impressive to see I-35 on Saturday afternoons just flowing traffic. And all of a sudden, you didn't see any cars on I-35 going southbound. I looked up there, and there was 2 police cars, had the road completely blocked. And then here they come around 121 down to freeway. So it was just a wonderful expression of the gratitude that we have for these people, but sometimes we don't show it. And it was really neat for these people. And then they went down to Market Hall. They had a wonderful weigh-in, and they weighed their fish in. It was just like a regular bass tournament. And it was so much to these people, and I had the privilege of giving awards away down there that afternoon. And it was so emotional for me to not only meet these men and women, but to meet their families and to hear some of their stories. And it was really neat that they were able to tell their stories and that they felt proud of it. And that was one thing that I had to say that they said. Every one of them said they were proud of it. So it was really a neat accomplishment. I wanted Frank to come today, and I wanted to recognize him and his efforts. And he works with a lot of other organizations, and he's going to tell you about them. But I'd like to give you this proclamation tonight, Frank. Whereas thousands of American servicemen and women have been injured, many suffering life-changing injuries while serving their country during current conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. And whereas the Wounded Warrior Project is a national nonprofit effort to honor and empower severely injured service members with a focus on soldiers injured in Afghanistan and Iraq. And whereas on July 16th and 17th, 2010, the Dallas Summer Boat Show and North Texas Marine teamed up for a Tournament of Heroes honoring 35 wounded warriors and treating them to a fishing tournament on Lewisville Lake along with other ceremonies. And whereas the ceremonies included participation from all 5 United States military branches, Lewisville Fire and Police, law enforcement personnel from other local, state, and national agencies, and hundreds of citizens expressing their admiration for these unsung heroes. And whereas many Lewisville residents also participated by witnessing the tournament caravan from Pier 121 Marina to Dallas Market Hall. Now, therefore, I, Dean Euchert, Mayor of the City of Lewisville, on behalf of the City Council and all the citizens of Lewisville, declare our appreciation to the Tournament of Heroes and encourage all Lewisville residents to express gratitude and support for our soldiers, veterans, and their families, proclaimed the 16th day of August, 2010. Frank, thank you so much. Thank you. Just the other day, I sent a letter to the mayor of Dallas and to their police chief because they provided, I forget how many motorcycle police, and 20 motorcycle police and cars to parade them all the way down to Market Hall from here. And it was a sight to see. And I don't think anybody got upset about being a little postponed that day when they saw that. So, Frank, tell us a little bit about it, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And it's a privilege for us to have the opportunity to use assets like professional fishermen, relationships with City of Lewisville, and a lot of restaurants and hotels, Hawaiian Falls. There was a list of probably 100 different businesses that helped us to put this event together. But it's a community event. Our job is to facilitate those opportunities. As the mayor mentioned, the pipe and drum, the flyover. One of the most humbling moments was these young people Saturday morning that walked down on the docks at Pier 121 Marina as citizens, and then on the front of the sailboat were sworn in by this rear admiral, and when they left, they were in the military and going from there to training. And these soldiers are all Purple Heart recipients, including the U.S. Coast Guard, and all the other branches. Most of them are young and had young families, and that was the other thing we wanted to do, was not only treat these soldiers but their families as well. So we appreciate the opportunity and the efforts, and hopefully this next year we're going to work tighter with the city of Louisville, and maybe even have the weigh-in and some of the other things right here in Louisville. So we're excited about that, and thank everybody for your help.
Thank you. And as Frank said, we're already working diligently to try to make this an even bigger and better event. It has really grown over this years. The first year we had a boat flotilla for them to go through when they took off fishing in the morning. I think we had 1 or 2 boats this year. I think we had like 50 boats out there. So it's really growing. We look forward to making it an even bigger and better event. Okay, if I could ask Officer Greg Hopper to please come forward. Chief, would you join me up here, please, sir?
Yes, sir.
Officer Hopper. Sit up here with me. Thanks, everybody. You know, it's probably the biggest honor of being mayor is giving some of our citizens and team members the reward that they duly deserve but maybe aren't always recognized for. I think we all know that, you know, the only time we don't want to see a police officer is when we're doing something wrong. You know, we're going down the freeway a little bit too fast, or we're running a red light, or creeping around stop sign. We're looking to see if there's one around. We hope not. But, you know, if we ever go to a dark alley to get our car, or we have to go through a dark parking lot, or we hear somebody breaking in our house, we want a police officer there. They're our best friends. So remember that, and remember that they're out there every day putting their lives on the line for us, so that our lives will be better and safer. So it's my honor at this time to present a life-saving award to Officer Greg Hopper. On May 16, 2010, at approximately 1:07 p.m., Officer Greg Hopper was dispatched to an apartment complex for an unknown problem. Officer Hopper was the first to arrive on scene as dispatch informed him that someone inside the apartment was possibly trying to kill themselves by slitting their wrist. Officer Hopper located the victim inside the apartment. The victim was slashing his right hand and wrist. It was obvious the wounds were severe. Officer Hopper tried to talk the victim into dropping the cutting instrument. The victim continued. Officer Hopper subdued the victim and removed the cutting instrument from his possession. A neighbor assisted Officer Hopper by getting him a large towel that he used to stop the bleeding until it was safe for paramedics to come in and provide medical assistance. The Police Department's Awards Committee reviewed this incident and recommended Officer Greg Hopper receive a life-saving award. If not for the decisive and immediate actions of Officer Greg Hopper, this individual would have likely taken his own life. On behalf of the City of Louisville, it was great pride that I present you, Officer Hopper, with this life-saving award. Thank you so much. This award reads, the City of Louisville Police Department Life Saving Award, presented to Officer Greg Hopper this 16th day of August 2010 for distinguished and unselfish service in the highest tradition of the Louisville Police Department. And I believe Chief Kerbo has something for you also, sir.
Yes, sir, Greg. Okay. Have a nice day tomorrow, which to wear with uniform and the documentation. Congratulations.
Get some photos. I think there was You want to say a few words?
Thank you.
Okay. Could I have Officers Rick Crociata and Shane Benz please come up? Once again, we have a couple of gentlemen here that went above and beyond their call of duty, as they do many times, not just them, but all of our entire police force every day. There's a lot of our other team members that work here in the city. It's what makes this city so great. At this time, I'd like to present both of them with life-saving awards for Officer Rick Crociata and Shane Menz. On June 18, 2010, at 12:11 a.m., Officers Rick Crociata and Shane Menz were dispatched to a possible drowning call at Eagle Point Marina. Upon their arrival, they noticed a distressed man in the water near a dock. They could see the man was flailing his arms and appeared to be losing strength. The officer called out to the man to reach for their hands. Officer Crociata flattened himself out on his stomach and reached for the man's hand. Officer Menz was in a kneeling position next to Officer Crociata. They got the man by his hands and pulled him closer to the edge of the walkway and pulled him up out of the water. The police department's work committee met to review this incident and recommended that Officers Crociata and Menz receive a life-saving award. If not for the alertness and immediate actions of Officers Crociata and Menz, this individual would have likely died. On behalf of the City of Louisville, it is great pride that I present both of you with a life-saving award. Once again, let's give them a round of applause.
Get us off? Sure.
You know, this is just a small token in a small way that we can sometimes thank these people for what they do. But I know they've got some of their family here, and I can see some of the young ones are here, and their eyes are bigger than saucers. And well, they should be, because their parents have made them extremely proud. And I greatly appreciate your family support, because without the support of your family, we couldn't do this either. And we thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. Okay, next item on the agenda is review of Louisville Local Government Corporation and beer sales at Western Day event, which I requested be put on the presentations. And after our last council meeting, I had numerous citizens contact me and tell me how much they were in support of the direction that the city is taking with our Western Week events that we hold here in the city. And they asked that if I would mind giving a brief history of how the events and things, the events that the city sponsors have gone over the years. So this past couple of weeks I did go through and do some investigating and get some information. At our last council meeting, we had a citizen that came forward and said that, "I don't believe we ever sold alcohol down here any time that I was aware of." And at the time she was referring to Old Town. So I thought the first thing I would do would be go over a little bit of the history of alcohol sales at Western Days and at city-sponsored events. Actually, this past week, this last Wednesday when I was at Rotary, and I can't remember Kip's last name. He was, what was his last name? Burnett, thank you. Thank you very much. Kip Burnett, who was president of the chamber back in the 80s. And we got to talking, and there were some people talking about the Western Week and stuff, and he even informed me that back in the 80s, there were some private vendors that had beer gardens here in the 80s during Western Week. And then I know that in the 90s, early and mid-90s, when we had Hydrofest, the boat races out here, where we had like 100,000 people, we had beer sales at the Hydrofest. And then you look back at 2000, year 2000, kind of coming forward a little bit, and you see that when we had the Summer Blast here in Old Town, it was the city ran the event, and we did have a beer garden, and Sneaky Pete's was the third party or the sponsor of that, and they were the alcohol vendor that supplied the alcohol at the time. And then in 2001, we had a Summer Blast again. It was moved out to Lake Park that year, and we also had alcohol sold out there at the time. And then in 2004, the Old Town Business Association coordinated the event here in Old Town, and they actually had beer free that year. And then in 2005, we actually had an election that year. In 2005, we had the local option election, and what that election had was 2 items on the ballot for selling packaged to-go beer and to sell beer and wine in restaurants. And both of those options passed, one by 60% of the voting public, and the other one by 66% of the voting public said they did want that to happen here in Louisville, which it had not before, but they did want it in. And because of that, then some other things were able to happen here in the city. And in 2005, once again, OTBA, Old Town Business Association, coordinated the event, and they sold beer that year. The city coordinated the event in 2006, and they again had alcohol sold, and once again it was in a fenced-in beer garden. In 2007, we again expanded the beer garden, made it a larger beer garden because we had so many comments of people that attended the beer garden and citizens to please expand the area of the beer garden. And then in 2008, at that time we actually hired a event promoter, and the event promoter, his name was Jerry Thompson, and he is very well known. He does events throughout the country, and he does a lot of events with Grapevines Fest and City of Fort Worth, South Lake, and he had told us at that time that if you don't continue the beer and alcohol sales on your major events, you're not going to have vendors coming, you're not going to get your big acts, you're not going to be able to grow your events. So we listened to this because we looked at some of these other events, and they were growing tremendously, and the vendors here were starting to wane off. We were starting to lose less and less people, and it was getting less turnout. And so in 2008, we fenced the entire event all the way around it, which was still free, but we did fence it. You had to get your tickets from sponsors, or you could go on the city website and print off your tickets. But that way it enabled people to go throughout the venue with beer and alcohol in their venue. Now, all was sold out there was beer and wine coolers, but it did provide them the ability to walk throughout the venue that was fenced in. In 2009, we did the same thing. We fenced it in and allowed them to do that. This year, we are expanding the event to a 2-day event, a Friday and Saturday event. And the reason we're doing that is because the promoter told us we've kind of grown up. And he said, your time now to expand it. Many years ago, this thing was kind of a Western Week event, and it did culminate on a Saturday. But we're trying to get it back to where we can get more and more people out here and more vendors out here. So we are going to a 2-day event this year. We do plan on having the entire project fenced once again. You will have to have a ticket, but you will be able to go online and download your tickets for free or get tickets from our sponsors. That's one way we get sponsors, is having them be able to broadcast their stuff on their radio or television or newspaper, and then they will give you free tickets to the event. We've also had down here in Old Town Cinco de Mayo, which has sold alcohol since 2006 down here in Old Town. So there actually has been beer sold down here for a number of years in the Old Town area for special events and events sponsored by the city. When we talked with our promoter, he talked about most major events in the city do have beer and alcohol sales, beer and wine sales, to keep their events sustaining and keep their events growing. They said it helps attract more premium vendors. And if you go around and see some of these places in Fort Worth, Grapevine, you'll see what we're talking about. The other thing it did, he said at that time, he recommended that we, the city, look at being our own alcohol vendor and then reinvesting the proceeds we make off of that back into the event, which helps grow the event and which helps make the event more self-sustaining and less dependent on taxpayer dollars. In the past, what we had been doing, and all these other events I've talked about, what we had been doing is we were hiring a third-party vendor to come in, and they were doing the beer gardens, or they were selling the beer, but they were taking all the profits, and they were taking all the profits home. We were getting a very small percentage of it, but they were taking the vast majority of it, and he says you're letting a lot of this money slip through your hands that you could keep here for your event and lessen its dependence on your taxpayers' dollars. So we looked at that and discussed that, and that's eventually what we're going to be doing this year. That's really the only thing we're doing any different this year is changing that up a little bit. The resident also stated that in addition, I don't think it's appropriate that 5 of you formed a subcommittee, leaving out Councilman Guarina, where y'all decided that we should spend $15,000 for selling alcohol and design this so we could have a sponsor being Budweiser. Well, I thought to that I was asked to kind of get some information and go over the actually history and creation and appointment process for the Louisville Local Government Corporation, which is the entity that is actually putting forth the $15,000, which will be paid back by the beer sales, plus the additional money will go back to the event itself for future years. But the way that Louisville Local Government Corporation was established was in February of 2005. I was on council here. Councilman Watts was not on council at that time. I think everyone else was on council at that time. In February of 2007 to 2005, the corporation was formed by the City Council, and members were appointed. The members were Gene Carey, who was mayor at the time, Mike Niles, who was also on the City Council, Rudy Durham, who was on the council, Tim Blair, who was on the City Council, and Greg Tierney. I was on the council, but I was not appointed to the committee. I was left off, and that was fine, because you can only do so much with your time. You can't do it all. And I had no problem not being on the committee. In August 15th of 2005, the City Council approved a deed of the city's oil, gas, and mineral properties to the Louisville Local Government Corporation. And what that was that, you know, with all the gas and drilling and stuff that's going on around here, if there's going to be any of that, if it's going to be happening, then the city wants to make sure they retain their portion of their rights under city property, streets, roads, and things that they have any rights to. So this basically was created to that, plus any leases that they might get. They wanted to keep that money and be able to use it, and it was kind of earmarked, from what I understand, it was basically earmarked for economic development programs throughout the city as they come along. Then in April 16th of 2007, which is a little over 2 years since its inception, City Council members appointed to the corporation were Gene Carey, Rudy Durham, Dean Euchert, myself, Greg Tierney, and David Thornhill. You'll notice we had 2 new members there. It was myself and Councilman David Thornhill, who was now on council, who I replaced Councilman Mike Niles, and who had resigned from the City Council, and then Councilman Thornhill was replacing basically Councilman Tim Blair, who was no longer on the council. And he continued serving, and Mike Niles, he continued serving on the council until the election in May of 2007. Then in June, in 2007, Councilman Niles went on and Councilman Watts was elected, but he was not appointed to the Louisville Government Corporation at that time. He was still not on it. Now, 2 years later, a little over 2 years later, June 15, 2009, the City Council members were appointed to the corporation. Now, Councilman Watts, 2 years later, after he was elected, was appointed to the board. Dean Euchert remained on the board, Greg Tierney, David Thornhill, and Rudy Durham. And Gene Carey resigned pursuant to not running for re-election, and they waited on the appointment process until they were enough city council members to appoint members to the board. Now, John Garena was not appointed, but however, John Garena was not elected to the city council until after a runoff election in mid-June, and actually in June 15th he had not been sworn in and was not on the council. So he was not, this council was not formed by 5 people to intentionally leave him off in any way, shape, or form. You know, I talked a little bit about the decision to do this down here in Old Town, and to be, the only thing we're doing any different than we've done over the years past is instead of hiring a third-party vendor and having them take the proceeds and take them home and pop them and run their business off them, which is fine, but instead of doing that, now we're big enough where we have the opportunity to try to keep some of those proceeds here in our community and help reinvest those proceeds in a bigger and better event each and every year. So that's why we're doing this $15,000 to be repaid plus the proceeds. Now, we had a retreat in February of this year, 2010, and at that retreat, the beer sales at Western Week was on the agenda, and it was actually discussed in executive session. And then I'd kind of like to go over the minutes of the workshop session once we came out of executive session. It says Mayor Euchert opened the floor for action to be taken on items discussed in the closed session. There was no item to be taken. Mayor Euchert returned to wrap up discussion as follows. And basically what we do at this point, we try to go over all the items that we've had during the retreat. We wrap them up and give council direction to things, to actions that we want to take throughout the coming year. One of those under special was special events. And under it, it was recorded in the minutes as Western Days make a 2-day event beginning in 2010, make it the city's signature event, and consider options for funding due to Holiday at the Hall already being completed. The other item was alcohol ticket sales. Consensus by council was they were in agreement. Now, I asked the city secretary, did she note that any council member had an objection to that? She said no, she did not, because if they had, she would have noted in her minutes that it was the consensus of the council with the exception of, and then she would have listed that person's name. Is that correct, city secretary? Thank you. And then again, that was in February of 2010. Then again in about 2 months later, about 2 months later, the city manager sent out, as he does every year, to the council what we call our 2010, and it depends on the year, but 2010 council retreat direction. And what this is a compilation of the direction that staff has felt they got from council from the retreat. And in that, there's a topic listing from PD, staffing, ED policy, workshop taping, budget projections, revenue options, going business insurance going out there, and there is a special events. In that, it says, pursue direct sale of alcohol and volunteer organization assistance. Now, I asked the city manager and both assistant city managers if they had any council member raise any objection to that, and they said no, they had not at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to try to give some background on how all this transpired and let the citizens know that we're not just taking your taxpayer dollars out there and try to buy beer and wine with it. What we're trying to be is be good stewards of the money that we do raise. A good portion of this money will come back into the city, back to the Western Week. The $15,000 will get put back into the local government corporation, but it gives us an opportunity to expand that and help save you on your taxpayer dollars by trying to make the event less dependent on citizens' tax dollars. So with that, I've got a bunch of cards here that I would like for people that have filled out. I'd like to give them the opportunity to speak. Yes, sir.
May I make a comment?
If you'll let these people speak first, I'll be more than happy to. Then we'll turn it over to council.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Matt McCormick.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Matt McCormick, President, Louisville Area Chamber of Commerce, 551 North Valley Parkway, Louisville, Texas, 75067. On behalf of the Chamber, I want to take advantage of the opportunity to talk a little bit about Western Day and how much we appreciate it, how excited we are, how much we support all the changes that have been made to Western Day to really move this event into a premier event for not only Louisville but our region as a whole. And how much we appreciate the hard work that the city staff and the council, that the CVB has gone through to put this together. I had the privilege of serving on a committee with Wayne Ferguson before he passed a couple years ago that took a look at all this information and took a look at every single one of our events that we had in Louisville and wanted to make Western Days the premier event of Louisville and of this region, to bring more people to Louisville and see everything that we have to offer to everyone around here, and see what we all love so dearly about being a part of this community. So I just wanted to say that today, and how much the Chamber and we support everything that the city's been, all the changes the city's been making for Western Days. On a personal note, I'm thoroughly looking forward to Cross Canadian Ragweed and Mickey and the Motor Cars playing there, as long as my wife doesn't deliver a baby that Saturday. And if she does, we'll be at the hospital up the street with the window open, enjoying the music and enjoying all the fellowship. So, but we do appreciate everything that the city's done to make the Western Days premier event.
Thank you, Matt. Larry Smith.
My name is Larry Smith. I live at 461 Frankie Lane, Louisville, Texas. Mayor, Council, Mr. King, Lame Duck Neiman. I moved here in '71, became very active in the Chamber. During the mid-'90s, I was lucky enough to be chairman of the Chamber. During that point, a lot of changes were going on in corporate America. Middle management was being moved out, changed. We became a situation where our volunteer group was just overwhelmed with Western Days. And in reality, because of that, the Chamber ended up canceling that item for several years. Luckily enough, the city had the foresight to pick that back up, bring it what it is today. And you know, if you think back during the 80s, we were chasing Plano. We caught Plano. Now we're chasing Grape Fest and Grapevine in the specialty items such as Western Days. We bring people in from all over the state to come to our venue now. We give the citizens of Louisville the opportunity to go down to the Old Town area, and while we're in the process of revitalizing it, there's a lot going on down there right now, and this is the perfect venue to continue that growth. Although I haven't spoken specifically to any of the retail vendors in the area, they got to love it. They've got to be thankful that we as a city are providing that venue for them during those 2 days. And thank you for moving it from the 1st of September. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Beth Ramsey.
I'm Beth Ramsey. The address is 1344 San Antonio Lane in Louisville, 75077. And I'm here just to give a little bit of history as well. I had the privilege of being on the committees that actually brought back Western Day through Old Town Business Association, and worked with Kenny while he worked on bringing that back. I also worked with the city employees and all of the preparations of turning it over to the promoter group and then having the city pick it up, and can tell you that from the inception of bringing it back to an event here in Old Town, that the plan and the thought for those of us that were in that group that worked on it was to make it always very family friendly, and that is something that the city has always worked real hard, obviously, to do for anything that they've done here in the city. And it was to also grow it. We wanted it to become more than a one-day event someday, and that was something we all, sat and talked about. And we also knew that part of what it would take to help that to grow was going to be the sale of beer and whatever other beverage was, permissible through the guidelines. And there were several conversations, and we did talk not only with Promoter One, because I worked on the committee with him as well. Jerry's a wonderful professional person, and with the city staff. But it's been thought through. I wasn't here for the last meeting to hear, the concerns that other people have, but I was there, and I know that there was a lot of conversation, and everyone felt very comfortable that this was going to be something that we needed. It had to happen for the event to grow. It wasn't, they get ticket sales. If you haven't been down there to see it, you get a band and you get tickets, and you're limited, I believe, into how many drinks you can have. And from what I understand, the police have never had any problems with any kind of alcohol-related incidents that have happened. And so we're thinking about those things and how we want this to grow and how much Old Town itself and that area needs this particular event to continue. I hope that you will remember all of these things and keep it growing. Let the alcohol use and participation be part of it. And I think the other part to that is, too, that it's a good thing that the city has stepped up and said, we don't have to give this money away. We get to keep it and we get to use it to help it grow, and can use that money that we've used in the past for something else that we need in the city. So I just wanted to let you know how I felt. Thank you.
T.J. Gilmore.
T.J. Gilmore, 724 Juniper Lane, Louisville, Texas. I'd like to kind of take this back to a historical perspective, if you will. One of the interesting things about the founding of the United States of America is that we had to fund a war right after our War of Independence. We had to fund that thing because that money just didn't grow on a tree. One of the ways that George Washington actually funded that revolution was through the whiskey tax, also known as the Whiskey Rebellion. For us history buffs out there, it's a pretty interesting time. So taxation, funding, alcohol, government, from the very, very roots of our country, this type of thing has gone on. What's even more interesting is that the city of Louisville itself, after doing a little bit of research back now in the 1890s, 100 years later, had, at best count, 17 saloons here in the main town, Old Town area. So when someone gives me that we need to go back to the way it was, let's do it. Alcohol sales is a great way to keep my tax dollars. Alcohol sales is a great way to maybe fund some of those things that you councilmen have to deal with every year. Every year I watch you go to retreat and go, man, we can't cut fireworks, but gosh, that's a lot of money we got to get rid of. You look at all these events that you have to fund. We have to cut down Christmas. We have to turn away lights. This is a way to help fund those types of events. I have no issue with it. If the police don't have an issue with it, I think we do it well, and we get as much out of it as we can. If we limit it, we limit not only the sales, but we limit those Tier 1 types of folks that come in and actually sponsor the event. Those sponsorship dollars are critical. We need to make sure that we continue those. I'm going to leave you with one thought from one of our founding fathers. Beer is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. Benjamin Franklin. Thank you.
Benjamin Franklin. Thank you, sir.
So to be clear, you're pro-saloon, is that correct?
One second here. Look at this. I was just giving another card here. Steve Hill.
Steve Hill, 964 Camden Drive, Louisville, Texas. In the spirit of history and open explanation of what's going on with this, I would ask that you please explain exactly why this money was not able to come from the city budget. Thank you.
I didn't hear the question.
What was your question again, sir?
Could you explain why this didn't come out of the city budget, why it had to come out of this special committee budget?
Well, it didn't have to. the local government corporation was the one that stepped up and offered to fund that and be the licensee of that because they had the funds to do that. Plus, I believe there's a restriction against the city doing that itself. Is that correct?
Well, the alcohol permit or the license that's obtained by through the TABC has to be with somebody. Were the city to fund that, then we would not be in a position of accepting sponsorships from any of the companies like Budweiser, Miller, or anybody that's actually selling beer or producing beer for the event or producing beer anywhere. That's a TABC rule, so the local government corporation was an avenue to obtain the alcohol permit, and so therefore they have to fund the purchase of the alcohol. They can't rely on city funds to do that.
Absolutely. I just want to be clear that there's a reason that this money didn't come out of the normal budget.
And you know, you talk about sponsorships. You know, there were some comments made about that we did this so we get sponsorships. That's not actually correct either, in the fact that we've had sponsorships from alcohol people that sell and are in the alcohol business for years, actually back in the early and mid-'90s when we did Hydrofest. We had the Miss Budweiser out there in that hydroplane boat, and actually she won the race that year. And Budweiser was a big sponsor of that event. However, back in those days, Louisville had not had the local option election that we had in 2005, and so we did not have packaged sales of alcohol, beverage, beer, and wine, which we do now. So at that time, the Texas law prohibited any type of a advertisement of alcohol to the general public. So when we had those beer sponsors back then in the early and mid-'90s, those peoples were there, but the state required that their signs be on inside the fenced area, and they must also face towards the fenced area, and there must not be any exposure to the outside area. That was a law by the TABC at the time. Since then, we have had the local option election in 2005, which I said was passed by 60 and 66% of the public. And so now the law does allow, and you can see it advertised throughout the city where convenience stores, grocery stores advertise their beer and wine sales. So yes, now the companies are still sponsoring money, but they can pay even more sponsorship because they're able to advertise and use their advertising dollars a little bit better. So there's always been the sponsorship levels been there. Okay, Gene Carey. That name sure sounds familiar.
Well.
Thought he was gone. Proud and honored to have our former mayor, Gene Carey, here tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. You know, I remember, I can't add probably anything other than what you went into the history on this, Dean, and I do appreciate that, because you and I were there at the very beginning of this thing. In fact, one night, we used to have an auction down here, and I kept hollering at Dean. He'd wave at me, and they thought he was bidding, and he ended up paying a whole bunch for something. I don't remember what it was, but I kind of tricked him, and he hadn't forgot it either. But I've seen this thing grow from a little bitty event, and yeah, we did, and where Beth was talking about, we did lose it, and then brought it back, and I think on one of our meetings in 2008 or 9, I forget which, I wanted to make this a signature event because I thought this was the best event that we had. It does bring a lot of people in. We did move it so it wouldn't be quite so hot. So I don't think we can go anywhere but continue to grow this. This is going to be our big event, and I do appreciate the Council and the Mayor. I appreciate your support on this too. Thank you. You guys do a great job.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few cards here I want to read that have some opinions, but they did not want to speak. I have one from Alex Buck at 1400 Moccasin Trail. He's in support, and he says, "A city without an identity is a collection of stop signs. Thank you for supporting Louisville's longest-running tradition of Western Days. We appreciate you." Also, we have Mr. Doug Killow, who's former principal of Louisville High School for many years. He was taken ill and couldn't get here tonight, but he wanted me to express his deepest support in being in favor of the Louisville Western Week and the direction that the City Council is taking. Steve Griffin, also in favor of the direction that Western Week is taking. Margaret Griffin is also in favor of the city, the direction of the West Freak Savings. Keep up the good work. Tamala Bowie is in support of the Western Day beer sales. B. Todd is also in support. Oh, excuse me, that's the wrong agenda. Beg your pardon. We got that on something else. Beg your pardon, Mr. Todd. I'll do that later. And Amanda Ferguson is also in support and will speak if necessary. So I do want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and speaking, and I appreciate that greatly. And I know, Councilor Rennie, you said you'd like to speak, so now I'll open it up to council.
Thank you, Mayor. I may go first then. What the opening statements were from the mayor was about our last meeting when a citizen came up and she was concerned about me not being on this corporate board. I didn't ask for her to speak, but it was kind of nice that she did because I also had that concern. You see, that money is coming from permits that the money is coming to the city for that reason, because we have the permits, they pay for the permits, but it's going to this private corporation. In essence, it is city money. That is where I have the problem with it. And if we're going to vote on city money, not that it would have made a difference on the passing or not, whether I voted yes or no on it, but if we're going to have votes on the city money, it should be by all your elected officials. That's where I have a problem with this private corporation, period. You can play semantics, whatever, but when the money comes in and it's supposed to be for the city, but then the city gives it to a quote-unquote private corporation made up of all council members except for one, then what you basically have is one council member not voting on that specific money. Now, that was the point the lady was trying to make last meeting, and she's a judge, okay? And I talked to her about it afterwards, and I thanked her for stepping up and bringing it to the forefront. But she did not think that the city was selling alcohol in the past at these events. And I informed her, well, there has been alcohol at these events in the past, and they were usually done by private vendors, which the mayor has mentioned. We can get into selling alcohol. We can get into selling beads and plaques and crosses and every other vendor that gets out there, the kettle corn, which I'm very fond of, by the way. That is just where we come down to on that private corporation that I was talking about. I want to move on from there. Another topic that was mentioned, and he was referring to me, just let me be clear, that back in February when we were talking about alcohol sales and stuff like that, I saw 5 people saying, yeah, let's do it. I'm new. All right, I've been on the council now for, at that time, was 7 months. And why argue? We're not voting on it. It's not official. When the official time came to vote on it, I was surprised I didn't get the vote on it. To be honest with you. I'm an elected official. To me, that is city tax dollars, city money coming to the city, and we're not voting on it. Now, personally, I don't think the city should be getting into the business of selling alcohol. However, I do not mind a private vendor coming up and selling alcohol. We can make these contracts and deals with these vendors to get a larger chunk. Yeah, if the public wants beer and alcohol and we limit it and we don't have all the drunk publicity, public intoxication and stuff, the police watch that. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying is there's nothing wrong with drinking. I do believe there's something wrong with doing it in excess, public intoxication. That's where we have the laws. But I just don't think it should be something that I would have voted no on it, because I just don't think it's something that the city should be doing directly. Again, I think that should be done by a vendor. So that's where I just wanted to clarify those two things up. And the reason I did all that is because my name was mentioned, and we had discussed this 2 weeks ago, or the last meeting, however long it was, 2 weeks ago. And I just wanted you to be aware that that was my position on it. Again, the lady that came up, she was just concerned of that. Not all the council members. She's a friend of mine, would be open about that. It was nice of her to do it, and I thanked her tremendously for bringing it up to the forefront. Otherwise, I would have just let it go. But I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? I did have one other letter here that I missed, I don't want to leave anybody out. It says, "Dear Mayor Ukert, Councilman, I am a longtime resident of our city, and I'm writing to express my full support for the sale of alcohol beverages at the upcoming Western Day Festival. I understand that some in our community have voiced concerns over the sale of alcohol, and I share their concerns for the responsible consumption of alcohol beverage. From my understanding, we have had very few incidents of public intoxication associated with this event. I believe that our esteemed police department could verify this statement. In 2005, the majority of Louisville voters overturned our longtime ban on the sales of alcoholic beverages. I believe that our citizens want the sale of alcohol in their community and at their events. As an event organizer for the last 13 years, I can honestly tell you, Mayor Ukert, that not having alcohol sales at our special events directly impacts the success of that event. All successful events include the sale of alcohol. Some even highlight the consumption of alcohol beverages as the main attraction to an event, such as Grape Fest and Grapevine, Oktoberfest in many cities. And I have been involved with Western Day since 1997, first as a vendor, second as the event co-chair, and now as the sponsor of the World Tamale Eating Championship. I have a vested interest in the success of this event, and I sincerely believe that not having the sales of alcoholic beverages is completely misguided. I urge you not to allow the concerns of a few rewind the clock and put Louisville behind other cities in the success of our special events. Sincerely, Rebecca Banky.
Mayor, I just got a quick question. Councilman Guarino, are you still new? Or when does the newness stop?
No,
Just curious.
I've been on the council now for just a little over a year.
Okay.
And, but, you know, just...
So when we have discussions from this point on, should we assume that you're still new and you're not going to voice your concerns?
Now, you know, that's really, you know, if I had a chance to vote, I would have voted. I would have said that. You vote the way you want to, that's fine, Mr. Tierney. But the thing is that even if I did agree on it back then, or just kept quiet or whatever, when the official vote came, I stood up. And even if I did vote for it later down the road, if I come to my senses, I still have the right to change my mind.
Sure.
So I don't even know why you're asking the question.
Just want to clarify.
Whether I'm new or not, we're all growing. I don't know everything, and I'll learn things to the day I die.
Good.
So whether I'm new or not, I don't think that's an issue. I haven't.
No, I'm just curious for future discussions. Just
doesn't matter, does it?
Okay.
Does not matter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is Visitor Citizen Forum. Oh, excuse me, I beg your pardon, almost skipped one here. Public hearing. Public hearing, consideration of an ordinance establishing the City of Louisville's participation in the Texas Enterprise Zone Program and nominating Overhead Door Corporation as a Texas Enterprise Project. Chapter 2303, Texas Government Code, establishes the Texas Enterprise Zone Program that provides state sales and use tax refunds for qualified expenditures on a per-job basis if qualified businesses employ economically disadvantaged workers. Overhead Door Corporation is planning a $15 million expansion for real and business personal property improvements at their existing Convergence Office Campus facility. As a result, the project qualifies for designation as a Texas Enterprise Project. Recommendation of staff to the City Council adopt the ordinance and set forth in the caption above. Due to not having any speaker cards, entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilman Durham, second by Councilman Tierney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Durham?
I'll be in favor of this.
Councilman Brennan?
Is there anybody here from the Overhead Door Company? Can I have one of you, manager, human resources, or somebody come up? I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. Maybe all of you, whoever could answer, but I think this is great that you're here and you're applying for this enterprise fund, but a couple of things in the text kind of led me to raise some questions. And I know you're a multinational company and a big company. I'm assuming that, here's where my concerns come up. You have to hire it says that you're not in the enterprise zone, but then I asked what the enterprise zone was, and I heard Denton County. Are you not having a place in Denton County?
Sorry, my name's Adam Glatz. I work with Ryan Inc. I'm the consultant that they've hired to help them with the project. I have Jim Fanning here from Overhead Door in Louisville, and Christine Guthrie from Overhead Doors Division Way in Dalton in Ohio. An enterprise zone is a state block group by way of the 2000 U.S. Census that has 20% poverty or greater. The way the program works is if a facility is located in an enterprise zone, then they have to meet a 25% hiring requirement for new hires. 25% of their new hires have to be either economically disadvantaged or residents of any enterprise zone in the state. So any block group in the entire state with 20% poverty or greater. If the business is physically located outside of a zone, 35% of their new hires have to be economically disadvantaged or residents of an enterprise zone in the state. This particular location is in the city of Louisville. It is in Denton County, but it's located outside of an enterprise zone. It's not in a block group that has 20% poverty or more, so they're required to hire 35% economically disadvantaged.
Okay. Well, my question comes to, what you just mentioned was the economically disadvantaged. And being a large corporation, I'm assuming you have some procedure, and I want the citizens to know that you're doing your due diligence to make sure that you hire people that are here legally or are allowed to work in this country legally. And if that's a background check, great. If you use some type of electronic verification, that's great. But I would like to know if, and I'm sure some citizens would like to know, make sure that you are doing your due diligence to hire people here legally. And you can understand where I'm coming from there. I do have a problem with the illegal hiring of illegal aliens. So can you tell me that you do a background check or some type of verification that identification is valid?
So I'm not from HR, so I can't get into all the technical side of that, but we do I-9 checks, whether they're here at our corporate center or at any of the plant locations, and we certainly support.
And how you do that doesn't matter because you're doing an I-9 check somehow, and there's many ways, right. And not just E-Verify, but there are many ways. Well, I thank you very much for the answers. That you will have my support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Watts?
Nothing. I'll move to approve unless anyone else has.
I have a motion to approve by Councilman Watts. Wait a minute. Yeah.
Close the public hearing.
We already closed, but in a second by Councilman Tierney. Councilor?
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, authorizing the city to participate in the Texas Enterprise Zone program pursuant to the Texas Enterprise Zone Act, Chapter 2303, Texas Government Code, identifying tax incentives, designating a liaison for communication with the interested parties, and nominating Overhead Door Corporation to the office of the Governor, Economic Development and Tourism through the Economic Development Bank as an enterprise project.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to personally say thank you for your investment into our community. In this day and time, we've been very fortunate in the city, but we certainly appreciate good corporate citizens like yourselves who are willing to step up and make investments like you're doing back into this community, and we appreciate your service greatly to our community. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support.
You bet. Next item on the agenda is Visitor Citizen Forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. We have one by Gene Carey. I believe that's our former mayor.
Well.
Don't take your best shot now.
We love you, Mayor.
I know you do. I love you all too. Just about three little things. First, I went to the budget hearing the other day, and I'll tell you, I was really impressed when you took a little bit of what you had and did what you did with it, because there's a lot of cities that really hurting, and you guys did a great job in juggling funds around and And Councilman, we kept the tax rate, and we're still able to do some things, didn't have to lay anybody off, and I think that's great. You know, it was always easy when I was mayor. We had an overabundance of money, but it just dried up when I left. So I don't know what happened.
You're going to check your pockets when you...
Yeah. Oh, no, you can find anything there. Another thing I wanted to bring up was our counselor leaving. We're going to miss him. I worked with Ron for 20-plus years and got to know him real well. And gosh, let's just give him a good round of applause for what he's done here for our city.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't know of any city attorney in this area that's probably got the respect that he's got, and we're going to miss him. Retirement is good, Counselor. You will enjoy it.
That's right.
And I told Marilyn to make sure you've got plenty of things to do so you won't get run out. The third thing, I would have had to come down here and took each one of you on to the back if you hadn't put Liz in this position, because she's going to make a great, great city attorney. I'll tell you, I'm really, really pleased there. I've got one other thing. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I think I am. Councilman Grennan, you need to work this council a little bit better.
I do.
No, just take what I'm telling you. You need to work this council a little bit better. Every one of these guys are good people to work with. Staff's good to work with. But I see some dissension here, and that bothers me.
I didn't bring up the topic tonight, sir. I just wanted to...
Thank you, Mayor.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, Mayor, you talked about the budget and stuff. I tell you, I think that was because we had some very good upper management, as in mayor, in the years when things were going good, pretty good, that made sure we didn't spend all that money. So now when times are tough, we got a little money left over to bite us through the tough times, and we thank you for your service, sir. Gene was, for those who don't know, was our longest tenure mayor in this city of Louisville.
I thought it was the oldest mayor.
No, I didn't want to say that.
I'd have that one, too.
You better not say that now. But thank you, Mayor. We appreciate it. Okay.
Yes.
Next, we have Ron Aljo.
Good to see you, Mayor. Thank you, Ron. Oh, be sure for Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Ron. If you will, leave your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Ronald Eljo. I live at 1004 Corporate Court in Louisville. I got it prepared less than 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the City Council for the opportunity to present to you my thoughts about the issue of oil and gas drilling in the city of Louisville. I attended the City Council meeting of July the 12th this year, in which there was an item, consideration of an ordinance providing a temporary suspension or moratorium of the acceptance, filing, and processing of applications for any permits associated with natural gas, oil drilling, and production. The city staff recommendation at that time was to adopt the ordinance for a temporary suspension in lieu of addressing a review of the ordinances. I was shocked by the elementary opposition that carried little meaning for not supporting the staff's recommendation for the moratorium on the drilling in our city, since I believe there were only 2 applications in the process at the time. There was no strong reason to not agree to the moratorium. Our concern as a neighborhood is that drilling could be just too close to our homes in a dense populated area of our city. Our issue is not that we do not support gas and oil drilling, but more of an issue is the safety and the health and the well-being long-term for my family and our neighbors. Perhaps my exposure in business with oil and gas drilling for a few years of my career relating to filtration and environmental issues might shed greater concern that I would have had concerning carcinogens and VOCs, volatile organic compound elimination. I am part of a group in our city by the name of the Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling that has met numerous times and did research of 19 cities in this area concerning their ordinances for oil and gas drilling. We especially feel that our city is lacking in the protection of our families. Our city appears to be in the latter one-third of the 19 cities we surveyed. For example, we would like to see greater distance from residential dwellings, 1,000 feet, greater distance from water wells, greater distances from the street, greater distances from property lines, distances from tanks and equipment. Location of pipelines are also an issue and need to be part of an oil drilling ordinance. There are more concerns with VOC emissions in pipelines than there are in actual drilling process. Other issues include reducing emissions, the chemicals that are being used in the drilling site, liability coverage for environmental pollution, pre-drilling water and air analysis, and post-drilling by independent agencies selected by our city, emergency response plan by the driller, reclamation site plan, demobilization perhaps on Sunday, and truck traffic hours of operation. To end my presentation, we have learned that there is approximately 28 permits turned into the City Council since the City Council voted in opposition of the recommendation of the staff on the moratorium of the drilling. Note that there were only a few permits a month ago. Would you agree with me that these companies appear to see a lack of concern by the City Council for the city's safety, citizens' safety and health? By the way, this is your priority, working and caring for the citizens of our city. What can you do for us now that will help us maintain our quality of life in our city? To close, it is sad to note that the uncommon business tactics that Cherokee Horn Productions, LC have been using to obtain mineral leases from a vast majority of our citizens in the community, and now many of them are upset that they even signed and wanted to know what they can do to get out of their leases. I want to thank you for allowing me to present this to everybody in hopes that our City Council and our city staff can perhaps improve upon what we currently have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ron. Kyle Scott. If you would leave your name and address, please, for the record.
Pardon me?
Your name and address for the record.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Kyle Scott, 2014 Briarcliff Road here in Louisville. I am also with the Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling Group. Just thank you for letting me speak. I would like to voice a few concerns related to the proposed urban drilling projects. The purpose statement of the existing oil and gas ordinance makes it clear that the city expects and is expected to be proactive. It is not proactive at the community level to simply require operators to follow current state and federal environmental regulations. State and federal regulations are necessarily broader in scope than local ordinances. TCEQ has admitted the need to tighten the requirements, and they are in the process of doing so. We expect that the local ordinance will be fully reviewed and updated before permit applications are received and approved. That's before permit applications are received and approved. This work would need to occur in order to meet the following purposes that are stated in the current ordinance. 1, to protect the quality of an environment. 2, to protect the rights of all property holders to peaceably enjoy their property. And 3, to minimize potential adverse impact to all property holders. A failure to do this work in advance of the permits is not only a reactive posture, it is negligent, and we are capable of more. The EPA says benzene is a known carcinogen by all routes of exposure. Our State Department of Health agrees with that assessment, and they took it upon themselves to review the situation in Flower Mound After their review, I believe they said that they are not going to formally recognize a cancer cluster in Flower Mound. However, they took that opportunity to remind us that cancer does not show up for 10 to 40 years after exposure. So the very same people, our State Department of Health, are saying benzene has in fact been shown to have an association with leukemia, yet they hedge and they say the risk is slight, and they say experts think that less than 10% of all cancer cases are attributable to exposure to environmental toxins. So let's call it 5% of all cases. Given that, we have a lot of potential cases in the coming years that they may or may not be able to associate with benzene. But what if we have exposure to a whole host of combined toxins? The ambient air may be considered healthy, but the citizens next to the industrial site and the storage and the transportation equipment are exposed to something else that is very much an unknown. If we cannot avoid these types of ventures, we should stay 1,000 feet away or more based on a reasonable review of ordinances in the area. As a last resort and at a minimum, we should codify every environmental and safety precaution that we know about. City Code Chapter 4, Article 6, housing standards require the city to provide minimum standards to safeguard life and health by regulating the use and occupancy, location, and maintenance of all residential buildings. The city manager is authorized and directed to enforce the provisions of Article 6. Our concerns are related to, 1, substandard buildings on a proposed drilling site property, and 2, the safety and sanitation of surrounding homes that would be impacted by the project. Safety and sanitation of those homes would be impacted by air quality, water quality, operator vehicles, expected pipelines, among other things. We request that the city manager review the project with respect to the housing standards. Likewise, we request that the city manager review the project with respect to the floodplain ordinance and the traffic ordinance before the Titan Ingram permit application is presented. There are particulars in this immediate area involving the floodplain and the traffic pattern. Other jurisdictions have tougher ordinances, and it basically goes without saying that operators will rise to meet the requirements. Here, we have the operators suggesting that they intend to exceed the weaker Louisville requirements. Council should not depend on stated intentions of the operators. The council may increase setbacks for any matter reasonably required by the public interest. It would not be unreasonable for our city leaders to conclude that there are too many variables and risks to drill, produce, and transport natural gas in these neighborhoods and school zones. Why is our ordinance concerned with trees and apparently not concerned about toxins that are known to be harmful to humans? It should be an embarrassment that the only mention in the current ordinance of toxins and other dangers to citizens is in the section requiring the operator to carry significant insurance and to release the city from any liability. The oil and gas inspector is required to determine that the project is reasonable under the circumstances and conditions prevailing in the area. We have seen surrounding communities tighten up the requirements, and we know that their requirements were stronger to start. Due to population density in our neighborhood, the proximity to parks, the senior center, and the recreation center, the proposed Titan Ingram project in particular is not reasonable given the circumstances and conditions prevailing in the area. In closing, we request that you review and amend the ordinance as you are planning to do. We request that there be no more permitting activity until that work is complete. We also request that you take a conservative approach to any request for variances to the ordinances once amended. This would be the responsible thing to do. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. Carla Scott. Carla Scott.
I'm going to give my time to Carol Thompson. She's later in the schedule, but her part makes
Not a problem. Okay. Thank you. You do have in support here, so I will say that. And I'm sorry, ma'am, if you...
Hi, my name is Carol Tomkovich, and I live at 2038 Briarcliff, and I've lived on Briarcliff for 19 years.
Thank you.
And when my family and I decided to move to a bigger house, we just wanted to stay on Briarcliff. We moved 7 houses up the street. So I have some handouts, if it's okay if I pass those out.
Here.
Okay.
Here. You just give them to me, and then I'll handle them, please. That'd be fine. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I recently took time to review the ordinances of 20 nearby cities to see how their drilling ordinances compare to Louisville's. This study is in no way scientific, and I basically just looked at a map and picked 20 nearby cities that I kind of recognize the name of to the northwest, west, and southwest of Louisville, where the Barnett Shale is. I then recorded various setbacks for 20 cities. Now, I could have manipulated the data and thrown out the low values, but I chose not to. I recorded and used the data for all of the 20 cities that I looked at. So now I'm going to bore you with only facts and data. The 7 setbacks that had enough data to compare were as follows. The distance to a protected use over which there's no special permission, no public forum, or waivers necessary. The average was 747 feet, and the median was 600 feet. Louisville's is 800 feet, or slightly above the average. The distance to a protected use under which a property owner's permission and/or a variance from the City Council or a Gas Board of Appeals is needed. The average is 604 feet, and the median is 600 feet. Louisville's is 500 feet, or 17% below the average. The absolute minimum distance to protected use, regardless of owner's permission or waiver, the average is 283 feet, and the median is 300 feet. Louisville's is 200 feet, or 29% below the average. The distance to a and all these distances are from the center of the well bore, which is a very common measurement that's used. The distance to a freshwater well, the average is 397 feet, and the median is 250 feet. Louisville's is 200 feet, or 50% below the average. The distance to a street, the average is 220 feet, and the median is 75 feet. Louisville's is 75 feet, or 66% below the average. The distance to the property line, the average is 200 feet, and the median is 150 feet. Louisville's is 25 feet, or 88% below the average. The distance from a tank or other equipment to a protected use, the average is 440 feet, and the median is 300 feet. Louisville's is 100 feet, or 77% below the average. Also note that 12 out of the 20 cities require either a special use permit or special zoning. Louisville does not. Oh, I should have mentioned, if you wanted to follow along on the last page, the last column is Louisville, and then right next to that is the average and the median. If you kind of, I should have mentioned that before I started reading up my statistics. And also attached to the last page is the links, the internet links to where I got my data from if you want to go get more information or check it out for yourself. As you can see, almost all of Louisville's setbacks are significantly lower than on average for the setbacks of the 20 nearby cities. I would ask you to please carefully review these setbacks and consider whether you believe Louisville's setbacks should continue to be lower than most of the surrounding cities. Unless, that is, you've done your own research to determine that the other cities are on average wrong about the setbacks and have them set too high. Personally, I would like to see these setbacks increase to be more in line with the setbacks of the other cities. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. L. Jean Ferguson. L. Jean Ferguson.
Good evening. I'm L. Jean Ferguson, and I live at 1097 Holly Lane, and I support the Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling. At this time, I'd like to give my time to Neil Ferguson.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Neil Ferguson. If you would, sir, give your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
My name is Neil Ferguson. My address is 1097 Holly Lane in Louisville. I've lived at that location for over 21 years. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for this opportunity to speak. Let me begin by also thanking Carol Tomkovich for her hard work in collecting, organizing, and presenting a broad and unbiased view of Barnett Shale urban drilling regulations put in place to protect the citizens of our neighboring towns. Unlike industry reports, Carol chose not to simply pick and choose those statistics that would skew the results to suit our purpose, but rather to take an average of all of the neighboring towns across the many different regulatory considerations and present all of the data equally. The results is a disturbing perspective on setback regulations in place in Louisville. In category after category, Louisville falls below the average, only once rising slightly above average. We are talking about the average, not even the best of protection being afforded by some cities. Yet don't you think the citizens of Louisville really deserve at least the average? In fact,
don't they really deserve the best protection and regulations you can provide? We spend city tax money to make certain our fire and police protection promises our citizens a safe city. Gas drilling regulations don't require any such expenditure, but they are equally important as a guarantee of a safe place to live and work. I want to believe this is what my city council looks to provide, especially in any area where the risks, dangers, and unknowns are so potentially harmful and deadly. When the Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling was formed, it was in response to what we felt was a negligence on the part of the council to trust in staff recommendations that gas drilling regulations be reviewed in light of increasing concerns across the Barnett Shale regarding emissions, about water well contaminations, about pipelines, public health concerns, low-frequency noise, and a list of issues that seems to just keep growing. It is a product of an undefined number of as-yet-to-be-understood factors. To borrow a phrase from Councilman Guarina, we are learning something new every day, or as he said tonight, I'll learn things until the day I die. I know that I trust the city staff to perform its due diligence in making recommendations, and the history has been that staff recommendations are well studied and well reasoned. I also know that it is a rare day when their recommendations are not approved by this council because they have that level of trust and credibility. So I must confess, along with the other citizens here and still others that could not attend tonight, that we were stunned when their recommendations were recently ignored, placing some undocumented and undefined presumed urgency for drillers over the potential to better protect the citizens of Louisville by simply putting in place a 120-day suspension of new permits while existing code was reviewed. When Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling was formed, we thought long and hard about our name and placed the word responsible in the middle. We wanted to communicate that which we feel are safe practices and express our concern that citizen safety and welfare be placed above any presumed necessity to expedite the permitting process based on no specific data to support no particular need. What LNRUD would want to see first and foremost are setbacks to drilling sites based on the periphery of site operations, not just the center of the well bore. To see setbacks that would respect the densely populated nature of our homes, our schools, our parks, our churches and businesses. To see setbacks that would better buffer such things as private water wells and noise protection, and to see comprehensive regulations set in place regarding any pipelines related to urban drilling operations and their cross of public property, only because they are obliged to spend extra money for added controls. Oh, sorry, I missed a page. No, I'm missing a section. Well, I'm missing a page in my presentation, and that is frustrating. Let me see if I have another sheet here. Okay, I have it. It is this last item that is not simply an improvement in policy, but the creation of much-needed missing policy, modeled after other cities who have created specific limits on such pipelines that enter city land. It begins with every new application by specifying in detail all pipelines associated with any gas well in Louisville. Regarding emissions protection, which also is of great concern to LNRUD, when operators such as Williams tell us they have better emission controls currently in use, they don't mention they are routinely in use in selected locales. The state of Colorado is a prime example. Why does Williams, and for that matter any other operator, feel some citizens deserve less? It's simple. In Colorado, they are not given the choice. The improved protection is required. Only because they are obliged to spend the extra money for that added control does this added protection exist for all Colorado residents. Take away that regulation, and you create the incentive for operators to improve their profits by spending less. It takes regulation to force these improved emission technologies in place. Williams can tell you how they have improved their technologies, but if Louisville does not demand the best, it will effectively write each operator a bottom-line check to do only what the law requires, and leave those technologies for the cities and states that care first about the well-being of their citizens rather than a driller's permits. Another concern of LNRUD is the protection of the watershed and the associated waters of the state through drainage into the Trinity River and other bodies of water from Timber Creek, from aquifer charge zones, and from other natural water conduits. This concern also applies to better protection for the contamination of private water wells within the city, of which I am just one of many such routine users. That's what I drank before I came here, well water. With both emissions and water, there's a need for baseline testing on a regular and ongoing interval, beginning at the time a permit is applied for at the expense of the driller, but managed by an independent third party selected by the city. What makes the most sense to Louisville Neighbors for Responsible Urban Drilling would be for the city to charter an oil and gas advisory board made up of concerned citizens, lease and non-lease holders, and industry representation to keep a fair balance, but with a principal eye towards public impact. This board would help define and prescribe city policy on all aspects of urban drilling, a board that, like the issues, can continue to learn and evaluate new information and observe solutions in other cities and other states, as well as the industry, to craft a responsible model for Louisville practices. In the meantime, and I'm about to finish in case you're wondering, LNRUD believes that the city should reconsider many of its setbacks and begins by recommending 1,000 feet from any protected use in parks with no variance. 1,000 feet from any protected private water source, whether on leased property or not, if that water source is in use. Define setbacks to include any well operation appurtenances other than operational road vehicles or a screening wall, not just the well center. Make a determination of baseline water and air quality prior to the onset of site development and after the close of operations on that site. Notify residents of public hearings for permits by sending that to surrounding residents regardless of the status of their mineral rights lease, because it's not everybody who's leased that's satisfied with what they've done. Development of specific regulations for injection wells, should they be allowed, and disposal wells. An escrowed copy of all chemicals used on the drill site to be kept private and disclosed only in the event of lawsuits related to contamination. An emergency response plan filed by the driller at the permit stage, along with a detailed site reclamation plan. In the end, it's about being responsible to the people of the city of Louisville, placing their welfare and their right to quiet enjoyment of their land here, and maintaining a safe city in which property and life are protected from unnecessary risk, and the quality of life continues to improve rather than potentially diminish. And LNRUD is therefore asking that the decision regarding the 120-day suspension of new gas well permits made at the Council's July 12th meeting be reconsidered, that an oil and gas panel be chartered without delay to maintain an observance of practices.
If you would wrap it up, please, sir.
Last paragraph. I'm on my last paragraph.
All right.
Improvements that should be made to city policy, and that LNRUD's immediate proposals, which I listed, be reviewed by city staff at its upcoming September 2nd meeting. Our citizens deserve the best, particularly when the best costs the city nothing. In the case of urban drilling, there will always be a changing target of regulatory needs and issues, and new solutions will be identified. It's critical that as a city, we adjust to those changes in a proactive and timely manner, and not hesitate to stop and rethink the situation. There's an old saying that remains true: better safe than sorry.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I have a copy of the presentation for everyone, including the city secretary, attorney, and manager, and I'll let the city secretary pass his along.
If you'll give it to me, then I'll give it to her. Thank you. If you'll give it to me, if you just give it to me, then I'll pass it out to you. Is that for everybody? Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, Jamie DeHaven. Okay. I understand, ma'am. I understand. Thank you very much. Trey Arabi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Arabi? Maybe? Arabi, I'm sorry. I apologize. I get mine messed up all the time, too. I know one time my kid, when he was playing basketball in high school, they announced him as Yogurt. And I felt so sorry for him. That poor kid.
My name is Trey Arabi. I live at 2019 Briarcliff Road in Louisville. And I also am a member of the Louisville Neighborhood Association for Responsible Urban Drilling. A lot has been said. I agree with everything that my cohorts have expressed tonight. I don't have any prepared statements, just a few notes I'd like to cover, if you don't mind. I'm here to express deep disappointment in the recent decision not to impose a temporary restriction on drilling activities and permitting activities. What's the rush? There is no rush that I can see that would warrant not imposing a moratorium. The leases that are in place began in 2008. With 3 years, the drillers have at least till the middle of 2011 to begin this process. They stand nothing to lose by imposing a temporary restriction. You and I don't believe anyone on this council is an expert in drilling activities. We need time to research. We need information. Drilling is not new, but urban drilling in such densely populated areas is a new phenomenon. The technology is very new. We're learning more each day, and what we learn, unfortunately, is not always good. Since the restriction was not put in place, as Ron Aljo mentioned, permits have been flooding in, now more than 20. And as you know, once those permits have been granted, they are grandfathered in under the current ordinances that are in place. A sense of urgency is needed to reconsider this issue. Not only have drilling permits been proposed, and forgive me if my facts aren't straight, there's either rumors of or already permit requests for not only just drilling sites, but collection sites and storage facility sites and compressor station sites. And, by the way, the locations of which are spitting distance from the new 9th and 10th grade school that's being built off of 3040. I mentioned that none of us are experts in this field, and I'm going to pick on Councilman Gorina just because I happen to be on the list of emails. Gorina?
Yes, Mr. Irby.
Thank you. I happen to be on a list of email list that you send out to keep your citizens informed of oil and gas drilling activities.
Glad to do it. Not always right, but I'm glad to.
Also, what's that?
I'm not always right, but I'm glad to do it. Sorry.
Very good. I'm glad you're willing to learn and to exercise your right to change your mind. I looked at your website and I get your emails. On your website, you say you understand the concerns from both sides, and you cite your experience 29 years ago working in the oil field for 9 months while you were in college. And you say that the technology was good back then and it's got even better. I wonder with the recent oil field calamity that happened in the Gulf, if you would reconsider that the technology, although it might be better, still is very dangerous, or can be. You also said that you are for monitoring drilling sites and the ordinances for continually being reviewed and changing ordinances when warranted. So I appreciate your willingness to do that. You also mentioned in an email that you said that you didn't just want to increase the distance just because, that you wanted to base that on real, actual facts about the distances to make a decision. I hope tonight you've heard some real, actual facts being presented. I hope you will consider those. Consider that, on average, Louisville is below average in many areas. Reading the minutes from last meeting, reading the minutes from the meeting where the restriction was denied, the moratorium was denied, reading the minutes, you said that this issue has been looked at with a fine-tooth comb. You've researched it, and you called it good. You categorized it as our ordinances as good and strong. Under what standard and what basis is below average good enough and strong enough for the citizens of Louisville?
You asking me? I'll answer.
No, I think he's just making comments.
Okay.
I hope the answer is rhetorical. I hope the question is rhetorical.
Well,
that below average is not good enough for the citizens of Louisville. And lastly, this just rubbed me the wrong way. Also in one of your emails, you categorized the concerns of the citizens as hoopla.
No.
I will be happy to provide the city secretary and anyone on this council the email that the concerns, wondering what all the hoopla was about. I respectfully ask you to give our legitimate concerns the respect that they deserve. And lastly, should it come up, and I hope it does, please reconsider your stance on the moratorium and truly protect the interests of Louisville citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Cindy Clark. Cindy Clark.
Cindy Clark, 2013 Vista Drive, Louisville, Texas.
Feel free to adjust that microphone, ma'am. Just pull it down there for you a little bit. There you go. It'll pull down.
Is that better?
That's good.
Okay. I have nothing prepared. I'm here to pull on your heartstrings. But first, I would like to publicly and personally thank Mr. Tierney for his vote and his direct and no-nonsense logic on the moratorium and his vote for yes to put it in for 120 days. Shelby, this here is my daughter, Shelby Clark. She is a 10-year-old fifth grader at Parkway Elementary. If she could, she would be in the Timber Creek Trail 365 days a year. If we do not put in ordinances, if we do not change the way that we're going and put more restrictions on the gas drilling, I'm not going to be able to allow her to go into that creek because I have concerns of runoff. Like I said, I don't have anything prepared. We all know that Louisville has changed over the past 10 years. All I'm asking is that y'all come together and find I would say that most of the other cities have done most of the legwork. So I'm just asking y'all to please be the ones to protect us. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, ma'am. Robert Groover.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council, I'm Robert Groover, 1811 South Valley Parkway. I've been a resident of Louisville, living there for only 5 years, which makes me a
I'm coming at a great time because my first...
you just give your
Yes,
name and address.
Nancy Kimbrell, and I live at 1153 Pleasant Oaks Drive.
Thank you.
And we've lived in Louisville for 13 years. My first comment was, I am not a drilling expert, so I come at exactly the right time, I think. I'm a native Texan. I'm a former Marine Corps officer. Currently, I'm a wife and a mother of 3 kids, and as I said, Louisville resident, proud of it. We had the opportunity to move a couple years ago, looked in Flower Mound, looked in Highland Village, and decided we didn't want to leave. We really love Louisville, so that's where I'm coming from tonight. I've got a concern about the planned drilling projects like the others that have spoken tonight. And I just want to ensure that the project is properly conducted to ensure the health and happiness of our citizens in our city. That would include, but not be limited to, ensuring that all possible safeguards are put in place to protect our environment, both in the surrounding areas and downstream. Also ensuring the health of our citizens and maintaining our property value. I want to make sure that Louisville remains a great place to live. I'd like to have some assurances that someone who does have expertise in drilling projects and the aftermath, and who is also unbiased, would be carefully scrutinizing any plans made and making some great recommendations to the people that are going to be making decisions, so that we've got all the information we need. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I will say thank you to all the people that have came out and spoke tonight. I know it's been a long night here so far, and we're just now getting started, but we are here and we are listening. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the City Council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal on an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the City Secretary. We've been asked to pull item number 4 and item number 5. Councilman Guerrero?
I just want to make a comment about item 6. It doesn't need to be pulled, but the policies and procedures we're separating, and I'm for that too. I do recommend to the council that we need to review those. Other than that, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, excuse me, to approve the consent agenda by tabling item number 4 and removing item 5 as a separate item.
We have a motion by Councilman Guerrero to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 4 and 5. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Sorry.
You have that, City Secretary? Okay. We have a motion. Second. We have a second by Councilman Durham. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 4. Item 4 is approval of an economic development agreement by and among the City of Louisville and Donald W. Kirkpatrick and Naomi W. Wilson and JSN/AAK Enterprise LLC, the owners of the 0.3 acre tract of land occupying the southeast corner of Main and Mill Streets, known as the K&W Automotive Property, are working with a prospective buyer to build a mixed-use redevelopment project on the site. The proposed agreement outlines economic incentives for developing of the 6,200 square feet project to include retail, office, restaurant, and residential uses. Recommendation of council of staff is to table this item for how long, staff?
I'd make it indefinitely. We'll bring it back when issues are resolved with the applicant.
Okay, the recommendation of staff is to table this item indefinitely.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Tierney to table indefinitely, second by Councilman Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is approval of an agreement by and among Toyota of Louisville, CSL Marketing, and the City of Louisville for title sponsorship of Railroad Park and to allow direct payments to CSL Marketing from sponsorship proceeds for commission payments and the cost of park signage. The city contracted with CSL Marketing in August of 2009 for development of a valuation of Railroad Park, Arts Center, and Western Day event for naming rights purposes, as well as the marketing of these venues for the same purpose. CSL has obtained a sponsorship from Toyota of Louisville, which wishes to be the title sponsor of Railroad Park. In order for Toyota of Louisville to quickly gain a benefit from park signage bearing their name, CSL Marketing will move forward with signage fabrication, and the initial months of sponsorship payments will be paid directly to CSL to cover this cost. The agreement will pay $1.5 million over a 10-year period. Once this agreement is approved, the new 274-acre park will be known as the Toyota of Louisville Railroad Park. Recommendation to staff that we approve this agreement set forth in the caption. I just want to say thank you first off to staff, Claude and Donna and all the staff, along with them in CSL. I've been working with them over the last couple of years to gain sponsors for these particular items, plus some others that we're working on. But this is the first one we brought into fruition, and I'm very pleased and proud to be able to say I think this is a good example of our citizens to see how a private-public partnership can work to benefit both the citizens and the corporation within the community that is offering its services to our citizens here. So we want to say thank you very much to Mr. Rene Isop, who couldn't be here. He was here earlier this evening, but he had to leave for another appointment. But we want to say thank you to them.
Mayor, could you say that amount again? That was
$1.5 million over a 10-year period.
Thank you.
I do have a card here from Mr. Steve Hill. Says he'd like to speak.
Thank you. I would like to say that I'm highly in favor of, I'm Steve Hill, 964 Camden Drive, sorry. I'd like to say I'm highly in favor of the sponsorship agreement for Railroad Park. In my opinion, this is exactly the type of thing that the City Council should be doing, partnering with local business to reduce the tax burden on the citizens. And I would like to thank the Council for their support of this agreement. And I'd also like to thank you, Mayor, for pursuing this agreement and other agreements like it. I think it's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Watts?
Move to approve. Second.
A motion by Councilman Watts to approve, a second by Councilman Guerrino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 6. I'm sorry? Oh. Item number 6. 7. I'm sorry, beg your pardon. 7. I was looking at 7 and said 6. Consideration of 2 variances to the Louisville City Code, Chapter 6, Land Development, Section 6-103, Access Management, related to the engineering site plan for P&M properties located at the southwest quadrant of Business 121 and Huffines Boulevard, as requested by Robert Schneenberg, P.E., on behalf of the property owner. The applicant has submitted a site plan for a 4.374-acre property located at the southwest quadrant of Business 121 and Huffines Boulevard. The engineering site plan includes a used car sales lot along the Business 121 frontage with access to Business 121 and a construction equipment storage lot at the rear of the property with access to Huffines Boulevard. The front portion of the property is zoned light industrial and the rear portion is zoned heavy industrial. The engineering site plan complies with the GDO with the exception of the proposed variances. A, to allow 173 feet of spacing between a proposed and an existing driveway in lieu of the required 230 feet, and B, to allow a modified deceleration lane for the proposed driveway on Business 121. Recommendation of the staff is the council approve the requested variances set forth in the caption above. Councilman Tierney?
Mayor, I'm okay with these variants and like a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Tierney to approve, a second by Councilman Duran. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8 is consideration of a variance to the Louisville City Code, Section 2-201, regarding waiving the special event permit fees in the amount of $2,600.70 for the annual Masonic Lodge race for the Children 5K Run. The Louisville Masonic Lodge, number 201, is requesting City Council to waive permit fees in the amount of $2,006.70 for the annual Masonic Lodge race for the Children 5K Run. The event will be held on Saturday, September 18, 2010. All requested city services are the same as last year's race. The fees were paid in full at the 2005 event, and a variance to all special event fees for the event was granted in 2006, 2007, 2008, and 2009. Recommendation of the City Council approve the waiving of the special event permit fees in the set forth in the above caption. Councilman Durham?
Nobody has anything else. I move to approve per the recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Durham to approve, a second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would encourage people to come out. That is September 18th. It is open to anyone. They do a great cause for children. It's the Masonic Lodge and Shriners Hospitals that they benefit. So it's a great cause. We're actually looking, I've asked staff and the lodge to get together and look at maybe including them next year in the Western Day Festivals, which is just 1 week later, actually, and it might all coordinate together.
Mayor, do we know where that's going to start and end or anything?
I don't have the actual, I'm sure maybe Mr. Kunke? I know it starts downtown, but I don't know the route. But it starts downtown here, but I'm not sure of the route.
You running
The same route that we use?
I'm going to be busy that weekend, but I will try next year.
All right. It's a great cause.
See in your shorts.
Okay. Item number 9 is consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 8 of the Louisville City Code by prohibiting the use, purchase, possession, and sale of the synthetic cannabinoid or Salvia divinorum, distributed, sold, and marketed under many street names, the most common of which is K2. Certain businesses within the city may be selling certain substances known as synthetic cannabinoids or Salvia divinorum. The substances identified manifest attributes of substances that deprive individuals of judgment, coordination, and the ability to conduct themselves in a safe manner. The fire department has responded to at least 2 separate medical incidents in which K2 was used by the victim. It is anticipated that the Texas legislature will consider regulatory measures when they convene in January 2011, but it is recommended that the City Council implement some type of reasonable restriction in the interim. The recommendation of the City Council adopt the proposed ordinance as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Guerrero?
If nobody has any comments or anything, I move to approve.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Guerrero to approve.
Second.
A second by Councilman Tierney.
And I do have some comments.
Okay, sir.
You ready?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I'm going to be opposed to this. I just have a feeling we're jumping on the bandwagon. That's something that started in Mansfield just a few months ago. And I think we should wait for the legislature to declare these substances illegal or illegal, whatever they're going to do, and then to take any action we need to do at that point. So, thank you.
You bet. Any other discussion?
Okay. Oh, you want me to?
We have a motion second, Councilor.
Okay. This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, amending Chapter 8 of the Louisville City Code by prohibiting the use, purchase, possession, and sale of the synthetic cannabinoid known or sold under such names as Spice, Genie, Decence, Zohai, Sage, K2, and KO Knockout 2 for public health purposes, providing defenses, providing for a repealer, providing for severability, providing a penalty, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
Also had a card here before we vote from a B. Todd, who was in support of this. He did not want to speak, but he did want to say he was in support. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1.
Only 3-1.
3-1, I'm sorry, beg your pardon, 3-1.
Because we'll have to come back at 2 more meetings for reading.
With 2 separate readings.
Change your vote.
Okay. Item 10 is the third and final reading, consideration of an ordinance amending ordinance number 2747-12-2001, eliminating term limits for the TERS number 1 board members. At the July 19, 2010 City Council meeting, the council approved the subject ordinance. However, due to the lack of a 4/5 vote by the council to adopt the ordinance on an emergency basis, the ordinance has to be read on 3 separate days to meet the city charter requirements. This will be the third and final reading. Councilor?
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, amending ordinance number 2747-12-2001 by removing term limits, providing for a repealer, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Item number 11, consideration of a resolution appointing one member to the Board of Managers of the Denko Area 911 District. On June 7, 2010, the City Council nominated Flower Mound Town Manager Harlan Jefferson to serve as a representative to the District Board of Managers for Denko Area 911. This year, there are 2 candidates that have been nominated for this position. Therefore, the Denko Area 911 District has requested that each participating city vote for one of the candidates and advise the district of its selection prior to 5 p.m. on September 8, 2010. The 2 candidates are Harlan Jefferson and Troy Powell. Recommendation is the council approve the resolution appointing one member to the board of the managers of the Denko 911 District. And Councilman Durham, as much as you, I know, would support me as a write-in candidate, I'm respectfully going to decline that.
I was going to ask again, just to make sure.
No, thank you, sir.
It was a unanimous defeat at one time after being nominated. I'm sorry about that.
Okay, Councilman Durham, I'll start off with you.
Our nomination was for Town Manager Harlan Jefferson. He does a very good job for us, and for Denko 911. And I would ask that we support him as our representative.
Second.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
I have a motion by Councilman Durham, a second by Councilman Watts. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12 is acceptance of resignation of Troy Townsend from place number 6 on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Declare a vacancy exists in consideration of appointment to place 6 on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Joy Townsend has submitted an email turning in her resignation from the Planning and Zoning Commission effective immediately. The City Council will need to consider a new appointment to fill the vacancy in place number 6. Recommendation is the City Council accept the resignation of Joy Townsend from place number 6 on the Planning and Zoning Commission, declaring a vacancy exists, and consider an appointment to fill the vacancy. I would like to say to Ms. Townsend very much, we greatly appreciate the service you've given to the city over the years. You've done an excellent job, and we appreciate you serving the community in your capacity there on the P&Z. We certainly appreciate that, and you will be missed. Councilman Watts?
Yes, Mayor, I'll make a motion that we appoint Thomas J. Gilmore to the vacancy on P&Z.
First, we need to accept her resignation.
I'm sorry, that we accept her resignation and appoint her replacement as Thomas J. Gilmore.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Watts to accept the resignation of Joy Townsend and nominate T.J. Gilmore, Thomas J. Gilmore, to replacement on that board, place number 6. And a second by Councilman Tierney. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration of item 13, consideration of an ordinance authorizing entering into a franchise agreement with Denton County Electric Cooperative, Inc., DBA CoServe Electric, granting a non-exclusive right to use and occupy right-of-way within the city of Louisville for construction and operation of an electric transmission distribution system. Negotiations with CoServe Electric have continued for many months. The present agreement expired March 1, 2009. Remaining items which have not been resolved relate to the definition of gross receipts. Staff recommends the proposed ordinance and agreement which clearly defines the need of the city and consumers. The city charter requires 2 readings of the ordinance within 30 days between readings when granting franchises. Recommendation is that the City Council authorize and conduct the first reading of the ordinance as set forth in the caption. My question, Councilor, is do we need a motion to read that ordinance, or?
Just motion to approve it.
Okay. Councilman Tierney?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Councilman Tierney.
Second.
Second by Councilman Watts. Councilor?
Okay, this is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, granting to Denton County Electric Cooperative, doing business as CoServe Electric, its successors and assigns, the non-exclusive right to use and occupy rights-of-way within the City of Louisville for the construction and operation of an electric transmission and distribution system, prescribing conditions governing the use of the public rights-of-way, providing for compensation therefor, providing for an effective date and a term of said franchise, providing for written acceptance of this franchise, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public, and providing for severability.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Reports. Ika. Always good to hear. We got a company in town willing to invest $15 million in new infrastructure improvements here, wasn't it? Good. Bob, congratulations on your new park name, sir. Chief, let me tell you that drum and pipe corps, is that what it's called? I keep getting it mixed up. Drum and pipe corps, boy, they sure make us proud out there. And every time they show up, they really, people just drop their jaws. Linda? I keep hearing nothing but good things about human resources. Just good things about human resources. What are y'all laughing at?
Nothing's doing good things.
Linda, take down those names of people that laugh.
She laughed loudest.
Don't you also do payroll? That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Chief? Thanks. So y'all doing good work, but it was so good to honor those gentlemen that were here tonight, and it was so good to see so many of their fellow officers here to support them tonight, and their families. It was really special. Thank you. How's everything going with the lake?
Well, we have gone down a little bit. We're about 2 feet down. I did check, and we're out within 1/10 of an inch of where we were last year, so it's not as bad as it seems with the hot weather.
Harold's hot. I'm surprised that lake hadn't completely evaporated.
Well, that's probably what's making it go down.
It is hot. Donna?
No, sir.
Thank you on all your work on the naming rights. You're doing a wonderful job. Thank you, ma'am. Linda? Steve? What'd y'all do with Ferris? Huh? Oh, okay. It's fishing. All right. Mr. Backus? Rudy?
I need to remind myself and everybody else that schools are starting for the most part next week. Louisville ISD starts the 23rd, and there are new start and end times. So watch the school zone sign.
Councilman Renner?
Just want to thank all the citizens to come tonight and give their voice about all the different topics. I think that's just great. Kind of wish they were here 9 months ago when we did the first go-around on the oil drilling, but I'm glad they were here. We're listening. I want them to know that, too.
Councilman White?
Just a word on the new K2 ordinance. If we could find ways to make sure that the city attorney has more opportunity to use the word spice and/or genie for future reference, I would appreciate it.
That was good. I had a hard enough time saying those words, let me tell you. City Manager?
Well, I guess no one else is going to say anything about it, so the next Mayor Carey. So I'll mention the fact again that City Attorney Ron Neiman is vacating his spot down at the end of the dais. I believe this is his last official meeting of the city pending some sort of emergency, which could, of course, happen before the end of the month. How many years total? in months?
37.
37 years of council meetings. I shudder at the thought.
You're not alone.
It's a shame.
Councilman Watts was just a glimmer in his daddy's eye.
And it's a shame, in your last meeting before you retire, we banned K2, which might have come in handy.
It's not effective for 2 more meetings.
Good point. Well, maybe after meeting we'll run down and buy it.
Wait a minute.
Is the city attorney listening to all this? But in all seriousness, I've only been here for 21, and it seems a lot longer than that. But over those 21 years, Ron has been a good friend, a colleague, a mentor. He's been an advisor on countless subjects and topics over the years. As an attorney, and I've dealt with a few in those 21 years, I can tell you that he has displayed characteristics of professionalism and ethics and knowledge and expertise and judgment that are very rare in that profession. It's the profession that demands the highest standards of conduct of its members. And Ron has always displayed those on behalf of the city of Louisville, on behalf of the staff, and anybody who's asked him any question about anything that came up during those 37 years. Personally, I'm grateful to him as a mentor and advisor over my 21 years here at the city of Louisville, and as well for the friendship that we've had over those years. I will personally miss him, and I'm sure the city of Louisville will miss his services as well, so I just wanted to get that out there. And in the words of Tim McGraw, Lord have mercy on your next 30 years.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Tierney?
I myself would like to thank Ron for working with me for 10 years now on council. I was 4 when you started with the city. Yeah, we're certainly going to miss you, and I just want to thank you for keeping us out of trouble for all these years. So many times that he has kept us on the straight and narrow and said no, and fortunately I think for the most part we've been smart enough to listen. And the reason why is because we know that you know what you're talking about. You're a smart man, so thank you. Good luck. Bye.
And Councilman, you don't get to say anything right now. Julie? You know, one thing about being married is you can go last or first, whatever you want to do. Well, I'm going to go next to last this time. And first thing I'd like to say, though, is that I would also like to recognize Ron's better half, Marilyn, who is with us tonight, who I know is dear to all of us, but not near as dear as she is to Ron. And she's, I know, been very supportive of him over the years, and I know it's a great deal. In fact, she can tell you some great stories sometime about their younger years when they were in college. But we won't go into that right now. But, Ron, I personally want to follow up with what Claude was saying. I've known you for longer than 21 years. I think I met you back in 1974. I lived in Highland Village at the time, and I didn't know what city attorney was, and I was only 24 at the time. Don't do any math, but all I knew you were a lawyer, and I thought, boy, I never knew lawyers were nice. I thought they were just all kind of jerks, but found out you to be a very nice man, and then later on realized what you did for the community and the service you've given, and you've been a great friend and a confidant over the years, not only for as our city attorney, but also personally, and I appreciate that. And
we're both going to be breaking into tears like the homeless queen.
You, it's not me. I'm just trying to give you a little heads up here. But I will say that, as some of the people have already said, that you have really done an excellent job since I've been involved with you, even before I was on council, but at giving this city good legal advice, sound legal advice that keeps the city out of lawsuits. And that is your job, to give us advice that will make this city better, not waste our tax dollars on frivolous lawsuits or lawsuits we know we're going to lose, and at the same time, do the best things that we possibly can to make this city the best city it is. And you've just done an excellent job. And I got to remark again about how it was here just a few months ago. We went almost 2 years without a lawsuit against this city, and for a size of nearly 100,000 people, that's unheard of. That just doesn't happen in today's day and age. And this city went for nearly 2 years without any kind of a litigation against us, and that's just speaks for itself. Is to kind of a neat way for you to go out, I guess you'd say, because it proves over the year your responsibility and your commitment to this city to make sure that we do the right thing and for the right reasons. And you've always said, I'll never forget this, you say this many times over, hey, I'm here at your service. I'm just giving you legal advice. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And I appreciate that, and thank you for your service, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, I don't want to take any credit, and I'm going to be the homecoming queen here in a minute, breaking into tears, but, the reason that you don't have the litigation is not so much because of the lawyer. Yeah, you asked me for advice, and that's great, but, it starts with you guys right up here. You're the ones that are the decision makers, and you can follow the legal advice, not follow the legal advice. You have the ability to hire and fire. You and your predecessors, you don't work for any pay or the minimal amounts that you work for now. But I can say, that over the years, while there's not been any hidden agendas other than what's best for the city of Louisville. And you've got a great team, and been a great team as council and mayors over the years, and you got a great staff. I mean, Claude's a financial wizard, just like you saw in this last budget and like all the ones that I've seen prior to that, and he's so well known or knows so much of all aspects of the city, and I mean, he's just been a great manager. And so with him leading the staff, and then you got Steve and Donna as his assistant, why, you've got leadership, and then you've got management, which is working towards that goal of the right path. There's some other areas that are also important in not having the litigation. In addition to management, there's training and there's hiring. And so, I can't say enough about Russ Curbo and as police chief and the police department. Prior to him, McFadden for many years. But there's a high exposure when you've got those policemen that are out there 24/7. And most of the time when they come in contact with you, it's not like the two that happened tonight. It's because somebody doesn't want to be stopped or somebody's going to get arrested, and consequently there's going to be lawsuits unless those people are properly trained and hired and so forth. Another area that's got high exposure is public services, with Carol Bassinger at the head of that. And those people are out there driving vehicles day in, day out, and if they're not trained properly and you haven't hired the right people, they're going to have auto accidents, which are going to lead to some litigation. And last but not least, the high exposure is human resources and Melinda Galler. And when you've got close to 700 employees and they all want the most and the best, and oftentimes not wanting to exert the most effort for it, why, you gotta know how to hire the right folks and train them. And I think y'all have seen that, overall, you just got a great staff. And I don't mean to belittle the other departments. For instance, Chief Lasky in the fire department, it's just that it's just not a high exposure to litigation. But I mean, obviously, we've got a great department. Once again, you guys have made a great choice and selection in my successor with Liz Plaster. And that's why it makes it easier for me to step down because I can guarantee you that she will give you good legal advice. And I will make that guarantee because she's worked with me for 5 years now, and she is fully accomplished and is a great lawyer and going to give you good advice. I was reading in the paper that most people, it said in some survey, have 7 jobs during their lifetime. And for a lawyer to have one client for 37 years, why, I'm the one that's been blessed. So thank y'all very much. So, Claude, I'll give you one comment back, old Willie Nelson song, turn out the lights, the party's over.
We will be having a reception honoring Ron on the 26th. I believe it's going to be at the Annex. Is that correct? At the Annex from 3 to 5?
5 or whenever.
Or to whenever. But we'd welcome anybody to come and pay the respects to and thank you to Ron for all that he's done, and honor him for his service to our community. Everywhere I go, as mayor, you go and visit with a lot of other cities, you talk to a lot of other people, and he is very highly regarded in his field, and we greatly appreciate him. And Liz, we look forward to our new relationship with you, and we know you'll do a great job, and we thank you for that. In accordance with Section 551.072, property acquisition, Section 551.074, personnel, appointment and alternate municipal court judge, annual staff review, City Manager Claude King, City Secretary Julie Hines, Chief Municipal Court Judge Brian Holman, alternate municipal judge court judges, and Section 551.087, economic development, deliberation regarding economic development negotiations. We will now convene into executive session.
executive session.
Need pillows? That's an Excedrin migraine if you need some caffeine.
Gina first, right? We'll do Rick. With Rick? Yes, I told him if he had the football, he ought to do or a Heisman Trophy pose. There you go.
So like, I could have a workers' comp claim.
Yeah.
He's already played softball this year.
I'll see if I can get Bob in. We do.
Maybe we can go to the park or something.
Yeah, I figured we could just go to the rec center and just
Oh, that's
I don't remember how that scoreboard works, whether they have a capability of, it seems like they've got the ability to put like the name of the team on there.
Why don't they start with the flip ones? You could read the score.
They could, they had the ability to put the name of the team on there and put Ron, some big number, and then operation circle.
There's a picture of Wranglers when they were there.
And I'm here till 26. Well, it's just already worked out. Really. Vacation. Jim's full-time.
Yes, but I'm going to back off because Ron told me today he's got a brother, a friend, who's a professional photographer, and asked him to be one of Ron. So he was going to make sure it was okay with me and that he'd have him come and talk to me so we didn't step on it. I said, cool.
Excellent.
Have him come.
Keep my toes out of it. I can delay the staff.
Well,
You want me to set the staff meeting at 9:30 instead?
no.
Sure.
11, 1 p.m.
I need to reschedule. I can schedule the staff meeting later. I'll demand this present. Just tell them. Just tell them. I can't tell them why. They just hate you like that.
Is that it? They're done? Okay.
I'll probably see you next year.
It's what?
I'll see you next year.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's probably good news, really. That's probably pretty good news. Okay. See you, bye. And this, so you just want me to come down week to get some money? Okay. All right. Bye.
Off the wagon today, man. Love you, man.
Hi. Okay, council will reconvene back into regular session. Is there any action to be taken?
I'd like to make a motion from our closed session. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the appointment of Christine Primrose as an alternate municipal judge.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Guerrero and a second by Councilman Tierney. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any further action?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Have a motion adjourned by Councilman Guerrero, second by Councilman Durham. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.